What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on this video, joining me on another e-bike review. And I am dodging raindrops today, but I'm not letting that stop me because I have a super interesting character to show you today. This right here, this little guy is the L3 from Fiido. This is kind of an upgrade from the L2 version that they've got on their website. And don't be fooled by this bike's small little size. This thing is packed with some awesome features, which we're going to go over. Everything from quick acceleration to dual disc brakes and absolutely insane battery capacity, which translates into a very, very long range, which we'll go over that as well. A rear rack, a comfy seat, adjustable handlebars. I mean, there's a lot you get for this bike. Right now it can be had on their website for $9.99. Now, I've reviewed one other bike from Fiido in the past. It was the D11. I'll put that link in the description so you can check out that review as well. But they're in process right now of upgrading that D11 bike, adding some new features like a new frame design, a hidden folding mechanism on that bike, a keyless security system, torque sensor, a bunch of good upgrades coming to that one. But for today, we're gonna focus on the L3, and I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about this one. Now, we'll of course go through this bike front to back, top to bottom, as we always do, and I'm going to do my best to give you the average citizen, average Joe perspective on what it's like to ride this bike and what you need to know about it. But the first two things I always like to tell you are, number one, this bike is here courtesy of Fiido. I did not purchase the bike. They sent me this bike for the purpose of doing a review video, so that's what we're doing today. And number two is that I am not a professional in any capacity. So that is the perspective I'm coming from. I'm just your average rider of e-bikes. That's the kind of information I hope to deliver to you. What does the average Joe need to know about the L3? So let's get up close and personal with the L3, and I'll give you as much info as I can. If you're looking for this style of very small, compact, electric, folding commuter bike, then you got to check out Fiido's website. They have a bunch of different options for you. I will link it in the description below. Let's get started. All right, my friends, you are looking at the 2021 Fiido L3 folding electric commuter bike with a huge battery capacity. Now, this bike currently goes for $9.99 on their website, and it has a ton of features, which we're going to go over. But first, let me tell you about how it arrives and how you set it up. So it arrives in a tiny little box, and it's packaged very well with lots of foam. I had no problems with that. There was no damage to the bike whatsoever. It was shipped and packaged very well, and it's inside folded up like a tiny little pretzel. And that is the setup. You basically just unfold the bike. There's nothing to attach, nothing to assemble. You just unfold the bike. I had to put the seat post down in, and that was about it. So it's really easy to get up and running on this bike. But let's start looking closer at some of the parts and pieces on this bike. Up front, we've got 14-inch tires. They're CST tires. The size is 14 by 1.95. Of course, no quick release or anything on this tiny little wheel. And the brakes are mechanical disc brakes, 160 millimeter disc on here. The brakes were fine. I had no problem stopping when I needed to stop. It'll actually skid the tires. The brakes worked great. I didn't have any issue there. There's no branding or anything on there. I don't really know what brand of brakes they are, but they did an okay job. Now, the bike comes with front and rear fenders from the factory installed. You don't even have to put those on. They're already on there, and they worked really well. I was very pleased with those. They even had this little mud flap here to protect from splash, so they did a good job. There is no front suspension. There's no suspension of any kind on this bike other than just the springs in the seat. You've got a headlight here in the front that also has a button up on the handlebar, so just one touch headlight. I like that. The wires going down to everything are tied very nice and neat. I always point this out because I appreciate that when they're all buttoned up nice and neat like that, and there's just not wires going everywhere. Coming over to our brake levers, they of course have motor cutoffs inside, so when you pull the brake, the motor is disengaged. And for grips, you've got rubber grips. They're little itty bitty tiny grips on this tiny bike, and they've got a palm rest here. They were comfortable. I didn't mind those at all. They didn't really spin as I rode. I didn't notice that. You can spin if you grab really tight and turn them. You've got a twist throttle on the right hand. People will like that. I know most people like the twist better. Mechanism here in the middle, you undo that, and then you can twist the handlebars and adjust your brake lever angle really easily if you want. And you can actually adjust the handlebars up and down using this release lever right here. And I'll throw some numbers on the screen of how high and how low they go, but that's a great feature, I gotta say. Being a taller person, I'm 6 feet tall, when you're dealing with a small little bike like this, having the ability to make adjustments like that, like raise these handlebars up, that's a great feature. And I got this to the point where it was actually very comfortable to ride, believe it or not. even though I'm huge on this bike, it goes up high enough that it was comfortable for me to ride. So it goes up about as high as you can stretch these wires. That's how high you can go. I think it would even go higher if these had more slack in them, but that's as tall as it gets right there. If we swing around to this side, you'll see the little tiny display right here. Let's turn it on. There you go. You can see what you get. So you get a battery indicator, you get your kilometers an hour speed, and that tiny little number in the corner is your pedal assist. So you got 1, 2, and 3 levels of pedal assist. It's small, it looks nice, it's readable. I like the display, no problem with that. I wouldn't change that at all. Here's your one-touch headlight button. You've got your little Roadrunner horn right there, which is super loud. Actually, these horns are really loud. Yeah, so if you're going to use that horn coming up on someone, do it when you're far away so you don't scare the heck out of them. But if we follow our handlebar stem down here, you'll see the mechanism here that allows you to fold the handlebars down. And I'll throw up a video of me folding this bike. It folds up super small. I mean, you just release the handlebars down as low as they'll go, and then you flop them down, fold them down, and then you do the folding mechanism in the middle of the bike, which folds it in half. You can take the seat out if you want to get it even smaller, and I mean it's very compact when it folds. You could probably fit this thing in one of those plastic bins from Target and throw it in the back of your truck. You can see we've got like a gray metallic paint job here. It looks pretty nice, actually. It's a good paint job on this. I like the color scheme, and it's got this, like, what do you call that, teal? Seafoam green? I don't know. There's your Fiido logo. We slide back, you'll see the folding mechanism for the middle of the bike. You pull this up and pull the lever, and it folds in half. You've got a handle here to carry it. It's a little bit lopsided with the gigantic battery pack in there. If you take the battery out, it's a little bit more balanced with that handle. But nice that you've got a grab handle there, and your controller is inside this box here. I did not open it up, so I don't know what that looks like in there. I'm not sure how big or how many amps the controller is. This bike has plastic pedals. I had no problem with them. They were fine. I wouldn't change these out. They function just fine. They've got the release lever inside here. You squeeze that, and then you can fold them even smaller. If you want to fold this bike as small as it'll possibly go, I don't think you really need to, because it gets pretty tiny even not folding those in. One gear on the bike, just one gear, no shifting, and I kind of wish it was a little bit taller of a gear, because you run out of pedal really fast. You can go faster just twisting the throttle than you can trying to pedal this bike. Let's jump up and take a look at this seat, which is crazy. This thing is so plush and soft. It's not that wide. I think it's like 8 inches wide, but it is just a gigantic marshmallow of a seat, and it's got springs underneath it there. It is a very soft, comfortable seat. And underneath here too, there's a little mechanism that allows you to flop the seat up. So there's this little tab right here. If you pinch that, and then the whole seat, let me get from this side, you'll be able to see better. So it goes up like that, so you can get the battery out, because the battery, you grab that battery handle here, and then it just slides up and out, which we can do here in a second. But so the seat is super comfortable. This is not, I know it's got this little boot here, but this is not a suspension seat post. I mean, I didn't get it to compress any, so I don't think there's any suspension hiding in there. But the seat tilts like that. It is super comfortable and super soft. It goes nice and high. I'll of course put the dimensions on how high it goes and how low it goes. A lot of people could ride this bike from very short to pretty tall. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall, and I rode it very comfortably, because I gotta tell you, I did a range test on this bike, and I was on it for a while. So it did get old after a while, but just riding around town for short rides, it was very comfortable. Let's swing around to the back here. I'm saving the battery for last, because that's the mega feature on this bike. But so in here, your hub motor, you've got a 350 watt hub motor, and that'll push you down the road about 15 miles an hour on this bike. You can see this right here. This is just a reflector. That's not your taillight. Your taillight is up here. So you got LED taillight. There's no brake light. It's just taillight. It's on like that all the time. If you pull the brake, it does not get brighter. It does not flash. There's no brake light function to it. Just taillight on this bike. And this might be a first ever for me. This has a license plate holder. Do people plate little bikes like this? I don't know. Maybe in other countries, not in the USA, I'll tell you that. But it does have a, maybe you get some vanity plates or something, I don't know. But it's got a bracket here for, I assume that's what that is. I don't know what else it would be. But license plate holder. And even a tiny, tiny little rear rack, which I used. Actually, I put a bag on here when I did the range test and carried some stuff with me. But you got a built-in rack, and this is going nowhere because it's welded right here to the frame. So you can't remove this rack. I don't know why you'd want to anyway. I think it looks good on there, so good added feature. All right, I'm gonna spin the bike around so we can look at the battery closer. All right, I won't delay any longer. The battery. That is the showcase feature on this bike. Absolutely enormous battery. Biggest battery I've ever had on an e-bike. This is a 48 volt, 23.2 amp hour battery, which is insane, especially on a tiny, tiny little bike like this. Now they say on the website you could get up to 200 kilometers, that's about 124 miles I think, 124 miles of range out of this battery. Now I mentioned before that I did do a range test, and did I get 124? I did not. Spoiler alert. I'm gonna do a whole range test video, but I got a little over 70. And that's just, you know, throttle only pretty much. Riding around, it took me over 70 miles to burn through this battery on, you know, just straight throttle. I weigh about 175 pounds, just, you know, to put it in perspective for you. So this little bike carried me around for, I mean, I rode it for hours and hours and hours trying to kill this battery. The range is absolutely ridiculous on this thing. Longest range I've ever tested on any bike by more than double. Just a crazy huge battery. The bike weighs about 52 pounds and the battery alone weighs like 13 pounds. And I think the max weight capacity for this bike is over 300 pounds. You can be 300 pounds and ride this thing. So this really does appeal to a huge audience. Now to take this battery out of here, you got to turn the key to release the battery. You need to tilt up the seat so it can slide out easily, and then you just grab the handle and pull and the battery slides right out. Now there is one complaint I have here about this system, and that is you have to leave the key in the bike when you're riding it. I'd rather be able to take the key out because I don't want to park it somewhere and accidentally leave the key in it, and you know, somebody takes the key and then I'm just completely shut out of the bike, or somebody just takes the whole bike and has the key. So I would prefer if the key was removable. You do have to keep the key in the bike as you ride it. But that feels like a pretty good spot to take a look at some of the performance footage I took on this bike. All right, how fast can you pedal the L3? Not very fast, because the pedal assist only assists you up to like 20 kilometers an hour, but the throttle goes to like 24. So you get more out of the throttle. And you've got one gear, there's no mechanical gear. So you're limited by how fast you can physically turn your legs to turn that gear. I'll give it a shot here for you, but it's not gonna be very fast. And this camera's probably gonna be bouncing everywhere, but okay, here we go. Okay, that's about it. I was like holding my breath. Whew. You can pedal it like 16 miles an hour. That's about it. So this bike's not really set up for speed pedaling or speed in general. I mean, it's set up to just carry you around at low speed forever with this gigantic battery range, right? We're gonna do a quick acceleration test here because it actually gets up and moves pretty quick. It's surprisingly quick off the line. So I'll show you that. We'll do a 0 to top speed here, which is about 24 kilometers an hour, 15 miles an hour. And then we'll just continue on our throttle only top speed, which is gonna be 24. But let's see how fast it is off the line. And just so you know, I go into my editing software and I go frame by frame to get as close to a 0 to 15 as I can. So here we go, 3, 2, 1, go. Right about there. I mean, it gets up pretty fast. And then I got the throttle pegged. It just does not go past the 24 kilometers an hour. Even though, you know, the speedometer on my phone goes higher than that. This one just stops at 24. It doesn't go any higher. All right, we're at the typical hill climb spot. Just a short, quick, little steep hill. Again, this bike, there's no mechanical gears. There's just one gear. So can't really shift that. I've got it in the full pedal assist. It's in pedal assist 3, you know, as much as I can get out of it. The little screen here in the bike is kilometers an hour. My phone GPS is going to be miles per hour. And we're gonna do this pedaling first, just to see how fast it goes pedaling and how much assistance it gives. So here we go. It takes a good, probably 2 full rotations for the pedal assist to kick in on this bike. It's very delayed with the cadence sensor. But once it kicks in, it starts cruising right along. It's definitely stronger with throttle than it is with pedal assist. I'm pushing on the pedals a little bit right now. I mean, we're cruising up like 9 miles an hour. If I just stop pushing on them and just turn them, it might slow a little, like a mile an hour. But I mean, it's just pulling this hill very easily. That was not a struggle for this bike at all. It's just not a super fast bike. So, but let's head back down and try it with just the throttle now. All right, so we're not working with a crazy amount of power in this bike, but a moderate hill like this, it conquers it with ease. If you live in an insane hilly area, mountains, San Francisco hills, it might struggle more doing those. But these, I mean, it went up that, no problem. Let's check it with just the throttle, which it'll probably end up going faster. So let's see. Now it was cruising about like, I think 9-ish miles an hour with the pedal assist. Throttle only, we are at 10, 9, 10, 8. I mean, it's roughly the same. It feels like it might be working a little harder because it's not getting anything from me, but still it went up very easily. All right, if you've seen some of my other videos, here's a question you might be asking, and that is, how does this compare to the Jetson Bolt Pro, which is very similar in size? And here's what I can tell you. So number one, I think it overall just kind of looks nicer and appears to be of a little bit higher quality than the Jetson Bolt Pro. It is way faster off the line. Super quick off the line compared to that bike. Top speeds are similar. I mean, this is probably, I don't know, maybe a touch faster. They're both right around that 15 mile an hour mark. This is probably slightly more comfortable because it has a squishier seat and it has adjustable handlebars, so I could lift them up, where this is pretty comfy to ride, honestly. It folds way smaller than that bike does because you can fold handlebar down and fold it in half, which the Bolt, you know, you can't fold that in half. So it folds way smaller. It's heavier, but that's because it has that massive battery pack. And I mean, the range is just not even close to a comparison. This is a 23.5 amp hour, something insane like that. And the, you know, the Jetson has like a 6 amp hour battery, something tiny. So compared to that bike, this bike just has an absurd range. And then, you know, you get other features too here, the horn and the headlight thing, and the you know, you actually get a display screen on this bike. So yeah, it's like the Jetson Bolt Pro on steroids. Everything's just, you know, next level better compared to that bike. But I mean, it is more expensive. I mean, it's 3 times the price. So I guess I would expect this to have all those features. I mean, it's a zippy little bike to get around on. When you crank the throttle, it really takes off quick. It gets up to top speed fast and stays there, and decent power. It pulls me around really well. I mean, I'm not a very big guy. I'm 6 feet tall, 175 pounds, but I'm sure I make this bike look small as I'm on it, but I don't feel, you know, that out of place on it. I don't feel like people are giving me weird looks like, what is that crazy guy doing on that clown bike? They're just, I feel like the looks they're giving me are looks of, I want to be on that bike. I'm jealous of that guy. That looks like a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, I'm pedaling right now. I find myself not really pedaling this bike much because it's faster with the throttle. I mean, we're going up a little incline, and this is, I mean, we're going way faster than I could pedal it up this hill. So you end up just riding this throttle only all the time. You don't really, you know, you're not getting this for exercise, I don't think. You're getting this just for flat out fun, or if you just need tiny little transportation to take with you somewhere. All right, time to try our handling test here. Let's see how this does. Should be easy because this thing's tiny. All right, oh yeah. Effortless. Right around these. I mean, it's so little, it goes anywhere. This is probably one of the easiest I've ever done through this slalom course here. And maybe I'm just getting better at it. Is that what it is? I'm just getting good at this? Whoops. I haven't hit one yet, so see how fast we can go. Whew. And we're done. All right, well, as you can see, it's a fun, zippy little bike, but let me kind of summarize some of the things I think are important to know about the L3. So number one is the range. Okay, let's just get that out of the way right in the beginning. Does it go 200 kilometers or 124 miles in range? No, not exactly. I mean, if you really tried, if you were a lightweight person, you had a pedal assist one, you took your time, maybe, I don't know. I got it to go over 70, so not quite 124 miles. I think I got like 74-ish. I'm gonna do a whole range test video for you too, because it's worthy of that. I think it was a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, it's not probably gonna go 124 miles if you're maxing out the throttle like I did riding this thing, but it did have the longest range of any bike I've ever tested by far. So yes, it does have a massive range. So if you want a range, if you're looking for a commuter bike because you have a longer commute, but you still want a small bike, then this would be one to check out for sure. Add it to your list to look at. Second thing I think you should know is the acceleration on this bike. It's actually really zippy. It doesn't go super fast. You only go like 15 miles an hour, but it gets up and running like really quick. It's really kind of quick off the line, which is kind of fun. It makes the zippiness of this bike makes it really fun. Third thing I'll say is that it's comfortable. Even though it's a tiny little bike, the seat is so soft, there's enough adjustment in the seat, and the big thing is the handlebars. The adjustment in the handlebars, they go nice and high, so even at 6 feet tall, you know, I was able to ride the bike easily. I can throw some videos of me getting on it and my wife getting on it. She's 5'3", she had no problem. Of course, with this bike, it's kind of made for someone her size, but it was very comfortable to ride. I rode it for a long time before I started to feel it in like my back and stuff. So I think a wide variety of people could ride this bike. All right, fourth thing I'm gonna tell you is that the pedaling is kind of worthless on this bike, honestly, because you can't pedal it at any speed. Once you get over like 10 miles an hour, you just lose all feeling in the pedals. You can throttle around faster than you can pedal the bike around. And I mean, I really think the only time you're gonna use the pedals are when you come to a really steep hill and the bike just needs some help to get up the hill. That's really it. Other than that, I don't think you even need the pedals. I think they're here just to keep this thing classified as a bicycle, I guess. I don't know. And the last thing I'll point out that you might need to know is hill climb ability. It'll climb some moderate hills. It's got, you know, decent power. It's just not a hill climbing monster. If you live in a place with really super steep hills, don't expect this thing to pull you up them with ease. You're probably gonna have to pedal a little bit and help it out. Okay, last question. Is there anything I dislike about this bike? It's pretty hard to find things to dislike about this bike. You really have to kind of nitpick. I mentioned one earlier, leaving the key in the ignition, that's an annoyance. I'd rather be able to turn the bike on and take the key out and take the key with me. So I guess we'll call that a dislike. The fact that you don't really get much out of the pedals. I kind of wish there was a different gear there and I could get more feeling out of the pedals, because I'm a pedaler. I like to just, you know, pedal a little bit as I ride, and you don't really do that much on this bike. What else? There's no odometer on the screen. It'd be kind of, I guess that's probably more, I want the odometer for bragging rights, where I can just be like, I haven't charged my battery in 2 weeks and look how far I've gone. So it would be fun if there was an odometer on there just to boast about your range maybe. And the last thing I'll say is brake light. So, I mean, you've got the tail light already wired in there and you've got a functioning tail light. Why not just make it a functioning brake light as well? Be a nice feature to have. All right, well, that is the L3 bike. What do you think? Is that one you want to consider? I think this bike would be a good commuter bike, but really it's just pure fun, honestly. It's one of those bikes that's not intimidating for anyone to ride. You know, if I have friends over and we want to go riding e-bikes, if I show them a rad Rover, they're just like, oh my God, that thing is huge, I can't handle that. But if you show them a bike like this, they're excited and they're like, yeah, I can't wait to get on that thing. So that's what this has going for it. So I'll leave a link to this bike in the description, and hope you found this video informative today. If you did, definitely do me a favor and consider hitting subscribe and hitting the like button. And thank you to Fiido for giving me a chance to check out the new L3. If you have more questions on the bike, drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And I think that's all for today. So thanks for watching.